Do you ever notice ghosts just don't care about your mental health or showing up on time or your sleep schedule or any other plans, really? They just be showing up. Today we have a phantom mom tucking you in at 1:22 a.m. Civil War ghosts vibing to old records. Shadow twins just lurking around the corner in a haunted asylum. And an angel leg just casually strolling through a nursing home. Welcome back to Just the Tip. My name is Brittany McLean. I'm your celebrity pro makeup artist and I'm here for you bi-weekly for Just the Tip, and it's apparently where I've just been doing my makeup and telling ghost stories because that's what fascinates you sick heathens. And as your cryptic queen, I support that. Before we get spooky, I want to talk about the makeup look today. The inspiration came from BunnyXO's makeup look in her podcast, her Dumb Blonde podcast. She had a look that was a little different than her normal. Typically, when she does her makeup, or her makeup artist Haley does her makeup, they do more of a brown smoky eye, which I'm absolutely here for and I love, which it was more lighter on the inside and then it still had that smoke on the outside, which we love, and then it had her plush lash and her nude pink bubblegum gloss, and so I just really wanted to play off of that and give that inspo for today's look. So if you love it, let me know, because I do. I'm here for it. I love it. I also want to preface this by saying I am not blonde. I am not completely white, and I have brown eyes. So yes, it's going to look different. Okay, I'm not BunnyXO. Maybe my next life, but not this one. Okay, so grab your snacks, grab your crystals, your emotional support animal, and let's roll. All right, our first story comes from Reddit user IDK_TBH LOL, which stands for I don't even know, to be honest, LOL. This story we're calling The Phantom Mom. This one's a little bit interesting and hard to follow, so I'm gonna try to make it make sense as much as possible. This Reddit user did say that she was extremely exhausted when she typed it up, so she said that it was just a lot to process, and it was happening in the wee early hours. So you think around like 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. It's around the time that all of this took place. I also have no clue where this Reddit user is from, so we're not going to give her a location or a name necessarily. We'll call her Jan. Jan says that one night she went to bed around midnight and she woke up at around 1:20 a.m. She said she felt just a cold energy. Naturally, she cracks her eyes open and she says that she saw what looked like a woman above her, standing above her. And this woman was tucking her in and like patting down her blanket to make sure she was comfortable. She says she didn't hear her, but she felt her. And you know that feeling of like, you can feel something, but you don't necessarily see it. We talk about that in previous videos about how sometimes that happens, you know? You don't really see anything, but you can definitely feel the energy. That's kind of what Jan describes, like with that coldness and the padding, and I've been there. After about a minute, she said she felt her leave, and she immediately texted her mom and she asked her, did you just come and tuck me in at 1:22 in the morning? Because like, feels like that was you. And at 5:13 a.m., her mom texted her back and said, it wasn't me and I'm sorry. And then around 5:30 a.m., her mom comes into her room, sat on her bed, and asked if she remembered her dream. She basically was insinuating that maybe she was just dreaming, maybe it was just, you know, again, been there. You're kind of lucid, you're kind of not, but you can't explain it. She asked Jan if she remembered her dream or if she remembered having any dreams like this in the past. Jan's like, nope, no, I don't ever remember having any of these other dreams like this. I don't know. And Jan's mom explained to her that when she was little, she used to tell her mom nearly every morning that mom came to see me last night, even though she hadn't. Jan says that she doesn't usually jump to ghost stories like that, but it didn't feel like a dream either, so she's not really sure what to make of it. Been there, Jan. Been there. She said it felt like her mother, but it didn't feel like the mother that she had now. Almost as if that person had been with her for her whole life and she just didn't know who she was. Jan says that she's Native American and she feels like she's got a connection with the spirit world anyway. And one thing that she said that she does frequently just in general to help clear the energy and clear the space, is she smudges with her sage stick and her shell that was gifted to her. And she says that when she does this, she feels a lot better and as if the presence leaves immediately. Okay, but like the audacity of like a mom ghost just pulling up in the middle of the night to tuck you in like it's nothing. Ma'am, okay, listen. Not everyone is prepared for that at 1:22 in the morning, okay?
Slow your roll, girl!
I would have needed a moment too. Because as a parent, like, how do you, like, what do you make of that? You know what I'm saying? Like, how does one make that make sense? You know? And honestly, that ghost, you know, she had that maternal energy on lock, because when you're tucking your kid in and you're fluffing the blanket and it's good night energy. I mean, if you're gonna haunt me, at least be helpful. There were people in the comment section trying to help Jan make sense of what she was seeing. And really, the only thing people were thinking of, someone had mentioned maybe it was a mimic. Listen, we hear a lot about mimics, okay? If you're not sure what a mimic is an energy that can manipulate itself to look and sound like a person it's trying to mimic. So sometimes it's people, it's a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or it's a mom, or it's a dad, and you never answer to a mimic, ever. So for instance, we see a lot of videos on YouTube where someone's parent won't be home, and there's videos out there, you guys got to watch these videos. Essentially, the person's parent isn't home, but there's a knocking at their bedroom door saying, let me in, let me in, answer the door.
Come on, honey, answer the door.
And the person is scared because their parent isn't home, and they know their parent isn't home. Their parent didn't just randomly come home. Like, the mimic is trying to lure them out. So never answer a mimic. The other thing that someone else had mentioned was perhaps it was a spirit guide, because it had a motherly instinct, and let's be real, I mean, it was considerate and it didn't feel threatening to her. It freaked her out because she's not used to getting that type of, I mean, apparently she is used to getting that type of energy, but she doesn't typically realize maybe that she gets that energy often and in her space. And so someone mentioned maybe it was just a spirit guide trying to be helpful and just trying to be a guide. Either way, this was definitely an interesting story. And I would say if you don't really feel all that threatened by it, you know, maybe it's not so bad, but I also understand you don't want to play with something you're not really sure about, you know? Even if it comes across like your mom. It's a playground that you're just not sure that you want to play on. Next, we've got Katie W. in Georgia, who said, let's break into Civil War ruins in the middle of the night, because what could go wrong? Katie said about 18 years ago, her friends and her went on a ghost hunting trip to Sweetwater Mill. That's just outside of Atlanta. And this was in the textile mill ruins area that was destroyed in the Civil War. So there's a lot of thick history there. She said naturally, they went in the middle of the night and they snuck in under a fence because they weren't actually supposed to be there for legal reasons. This is alleged. Katie said they were on the pillars and they were performing EVP work. They were just hanging out, and out of nowhere, she said that they heard a faint shouting and music playing from what sounded like an old record player. And for those who don't know what an EVP is or what EVP work is, EVP stands for electronic voice phenomena. And it's usually when people use like audio recorders, and it helps to capture spirit voices or sounds that aren't heard in real time. Ghost hunters often use this technique, but a lot of people believe it's just a way for the spirits to communicate through electronic devices. Some people believe that it's spirits communicating. Other people believe that it's just random noise or interference. But either way, EVP sessions are a classic ghost hunting tool for trying to catch proof of the paranormal. So in layman's terms, it's basically where like, you're basically asking the ghost to leave you a voicemail, except you don't really want to call back. I mean, if you're a ghost enthusiast, it's like prime rib, you know? You want the goods. You want the evidence. Back to the story. Katie said they're in the middle of nowhere near campsites, and this music is just floating through the ruins. You just hear it. And then the three of them notice a figure in a corner of a room, out of the corner of their eyes, like in their periffs. She said she finally got the nerve to turn around and see it for a split second, and then she said it just vanished. It was gone. And the music and the shouting, it just completely stopped. Katie said her and her friends immediately left after that. And Katie mentions also that she grew up in the Appalachian foothills, so she's pretty used to like spirits and mimics. She says that her rule in her house is if you're home alone and you hear your name being called, don't answer and don't move. The folklore has been running rich through the Appalachians for decades, for centuries, for so long. And so many people can tell you all different kinds of spooky stories about the Appalachian Mountains. And sure, there's a lot of wildlife and things like that, but if you know, you know. I have questions though. First off, why do ghosts love like the old-timey music? You always hear that in some EVPs or like some like video recordings. You always hear that old-timey music. Granted, it was probably the music from back when they were like alive. But do we need a creepy soundtrack? Yes, we do. Also mimics? No, we just talked about that. Because listen, if something calls my name in the dark, I'm out. Katie, good on you, because I don't know that I could live in the Appalachian Mountains if I'm being honest, because I'm you know, I'm a weenie. I say that, but like truly, I'm not scared. I mean, I ain't scared. You don't know me. I'm a little scared, but it's mainly because I think most people are scared of the things they don't understand. And I think with the paranormal and spirits in general, they're so easily misunderstood. If you look at the paranormal tools that they have now, the technology has come so far and it's very science-based now. I mean, it didn't used to be. It used to be just firsthand stories that contributed to lore. This next one is from Chelsea E, who said, let's celebrate our birthday by going to a lunatic asylum that's haunted. This one takes place at the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in West Virginia. And before I get into Chelsea's story, I want to give a quick rundown on the history of this place because again, I like history. I like history. And I feel like with certain things, it's nice to have the background to know exactly what you're dealing with in terms of like the hauntings. I'm not rolling my eyes at you. I do this so that I know where my crease is. It's fine. I like to know the history on things. To me, it's just very interesting, and I feel like if you know the history of the place, then things just make more sense, you know? The Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum used to also be known as the Weston State Hospital, and it opened up in around 1864, and it operated as a psychiatric hospital until about 1994. The building itself is pretty massive. It's one of the largest hand-cut stone masonries in the US. It was designed to house around 250 patients, but at its peak time in the 1950s, it held about 2,400, which obviously led to overcrowding, underfunding, poor conditions, and tragic stories. Over the years, it saw lobotomies, questionable treatments, and patient abuse. And that leaves a very heavy, eerie energy behind, you know what I'm saying? These days, they offer paranormal tours and ghost hunts with visitors reporting apparitions, shadowy figures, disembodied voices, and objects moving on their own. Classic. It's apparently considered one of the most haunted locations in the US, with hotspots including the children's ward, the women's auxiliary building, and the basement, which is where a lot of the violent and combative patients were kept. So you can imagine the haunting is, well, thick. The energy is thick there. Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. Come for the haunted history where the real residents never checked out. And you have to stay because the shadowy figure blocked the exit. Book your tour now. Okay, so now that we've established the history, we can move forward with Chelsea's story. Chelsea says that her and her best friend decided to start doing what they called a hot girl weekend, where they basically go to haunted places overnight and just, you know, do what girls love to do, you know? History, murder, and paranormal. I mean, come on. Let's go, girls. I'm here for that, honestly. Like, my best friend and I talked about doing this, and I'm like, hell yeah, I want to go. I want to do it. Not a huge ghoul gang, because I feel like if you have too many, it's kind of like Linkin Park, R.I.P. Chester. But I never could love Linkin Park. I felt like they had an unnecessary amount of band members. Do we need that many? Not really. Someone playing the cowbell? They can't also play something else? I don't know. I felt like it was unnecessary to have a big group with you. I feel like ghost hunting is best done when you have like 4 or less people. I feel like it's less noise pollution, and in general, I mean, so going with your bestie, that's a vibe. Sorry, don't come for me about the Linkin Park comment, okay? I'm just saying. 4 or less. My humble opinion. Back to the story. She said they had an amazing time, and before they went to the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, they went to the Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary. They said they had a blast. It was a lot of fun. So their next stop was Trans-Allegheny. They booked an overnight investigation from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. with just them and the tour guide. Zero equipment, rookie move. Besides some of their like apps and some dowsing rods, which I have dowsing rods and those are good. Chelsea says around 3:30 a.m. they went to the children's ward and they sat at the end of the hallway and they were looking down towards a room and they just thanked the children for allowing them to be there and to investigate. In the area where the window is, she said she saw figures darting back and forth, peeking around doors, and she thought she was imagining things, like maybe she was seeing things, until she saw two heads popping out of a room. And the guide asked her, "Do you guys see the twins?" Stop. Are you serious? Are you serious? See, these are the stories I live for. Bruh. She also says that she saw a shadow cover a window, and the guide also asked if they saw the third window get covered. And Haunt Girl Haunted Weekend, obsessed. And shadow twins in a abandoned asylum at 3:30 a.m. is like, absolutely not. But my self-preservation instincts would have had me sprinting out the front door. But seriously, Chelsea, the fact that you and your friend saw it and the guide confirmed it, that's just the real deal in my book. So one of the best stories that I've gotten so far. I did some of my foundation, my liner, lashes off camera, I know. Because I know people don't like that a lot. But to make up for it, I have a joke. Here it comes. Okay. Why do ghosts hate the rain? Because it dampens their spirits. That was funny. That was funny. It's cute. It's a cute joke. Anyway, when it comes to makeup and eyeliner, listen, if the eyeliner can hear me breathing, I don't stand a chance. And now our next story is from Pamela M. from Ohio, reminding us that sometimes ghosts can be peaceful, but still creepy as hell. It was the early 2000s, and Pamela said that she was working the night shift at the nursing home. I know where this is going. I know where this is going. She said she usually finished up by around like 4 a.m. That was when her like shift would end, and she would do like routine checks before she went off shift. She said as she was walking by her patient's room, she noticed a white flash towards like the head of the bed, towards the floor. She describes what she thought she saw, which was like a white leg from like the knee down. She said she went into the patient's room to check on her, and she said she didn't see anything. She said she checked the patient's closet, under the bed, everywhere, and didn't see anything. Pamela asked her fellow nurse if they had seen anyone else just like roaming around or anything like that, and she said no, nobody else was there. She said the next night her coworker and other nurse had pulled her aside, looking real shook, and told her that at around 8 a.m. that resident had passed away unexpectedly. Pamela says that she believes, and the other nurse believes, that that was an angel coming to help her cross over, which honestly is not that far-fetched. I feel like that's actually pretty on brand for a nursing home, you know? And like, first off, the idea of like an angel, like just one, casually strutting in to escort you to the afterlife, I mean, that's equal parts comforting and nightmare fuel, but also like, how nice. And shout out to Pam, because you know, you doing your job at 4 a.m. is, first of all, no easy feat. That's a whole like commitment, okay? Pamela doing her job at 4 a.m. while ghost legs are just making their rounds in patients' rooms, you know, it couldn't be me. I mean, it could be, but you know. Now this next story is gonna be our last story, and this one is from Elementary Fan on Reddit. And the Reddit community is Ask Reddit. This Reddit user says that they didn't know anyone that smoked, and so it was just kind of random, but they found a very clean ashtray in their cupboard. Why was there a clean ashtray in the cupboard? They weren't really sure, but it was a busy day, so they just put it on the counter, and they left and came back an hour later, and they still noticed that the ashtray was on the kitchen counter, so they went over to it, and there was ash in the ashtray. It was just filled with cigarette ash. No cigarette butts, just ash. They said they could also smell like a faint smell of cigarette smoke. They knew that cigarette ashtray was empty, and it was very clean when they pulled it out of the cupboard, so it was just very random. But now it was just full of ash, but there was no trace of a cigarette aside from that. They said that the scent wasn't as strong as they expected it to be, but it was still pretty strong nonetheless. Obviously, this person was freaked out, so they got a kitchen knife and walked around the house and inspected everything just to be sure that there wasn't someone hiding or there wasn't someone that was just playing a prank or whatever. I mean, granted, if it's a prank and someone's got a knife, that's dangerous, but okay. No one was there. All the doors and windows were checked and they were all locked. They searched the house again to make sure there was no cash or missing valuables, and everything was still accounted for, so that's strange. They said that they called all their friends, even the ones that were non-smokers, and asked them if they happened to drop by the house or if they were playing a prank, and everyone said no. They had a hard time sleeping after that because they just weren't really all that sure that what they were experiencing wasn't like a break-in or anything of the sort, and it just really freaked them out. So they said that they ended up changing all the locks anyways just to be safe, because you know, when you're dealing with something like that, last thing you want to deal with is an intruder or just somebody being funny. The Reddit user even goes as far as keeping the cigarette ash in a plastic baggie in their nightstand. Not that they know that's going to prove anything or answer any questions, but just so that they can like process the fact there was ash in there. That Reddit user, we'll call her Mary, said what's even worse about their story is that the day after that bizarre incident, a murder took place in her neighborhood. A mentally ill woman who struggled with drug abuse stabbed a convenience store clerk to death following an argument that was over cigarettes. She says it's likely very unrelated, but sometimes she wonders. She also put a disclaimer out there that she does not keep spare keys in her yard or on her front porch or under rocks or anything like that. Either way, there's not any real way to explain that, you know? Okay, so you don't smoke, you barely know anybody that does, and you randomly find a ashtray full of cigarette ash in your locked house after leaving it on the table for an hour. And also the fact that you walked around the house with a kitchen knife. It was like an episode of Ghost Hunters Home Edition. I feel like it's really ironic and weird that there just happened to be like a murder in the neighborhood. That's suspicious. That's weird.
How bizarre! How bizarre! How bizarre!
And over cigarettes, because wet. And I don't know what's scarier, the fact that the ghost used your ashtray and didn't clean up after themselves, or the fact that you're living in a true crime episode without even leaving your kitchen. All I'm saying is, if I ever find a ghost ash in a clean ashtray at my house, I'm calling a priest and a locksmith and a therapist quite immediately. Okay. All right, babes, that's it for this week's Just the Tip, where I rocked a BunnyXO inspired glam while telling ghost stories that will definitely have me sleeping with a nightlight tonight, okay? If you love the stories or the look, hit the like and subscribe button and drop a ghost in the comments just so I know that you made it to the end. If you have a ghost story that could top these, maybe with some evidence, maybe a picture or a video, make sure to email it to me at bookbabemua@gmail.com. And also please join my Reddit community, r/LipstickAndLore, because I want to hear all your creepy, spooky stories. Mimics, Bigfoot, cryptids, I don't care. Send it to me. Until next time, stay sexy, stay weird, and stay spooky. And remember, if a ghost shows up while you're looking this cute, at least you'll be ready to haunt. Bye.